Guys, happy Sunday. Hope you've all had an excellent week. You know what time it is. It's time for me to share another story. And I recently was reflecting on one of probably the most introspective moments that I've had in my journey. Because when you're on your self-development, on your personal development journey, that's what it's all about. On self-discovery, learning more about yourself and leveling up. So, story for this video is I remember when I was in Miami, which is actually when I first started to take my journey super seriously, my development very seriously, and I wanted to look for ways to improve. I always heard the typical advice, you've most likely heard it as well, that says that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Essentially, you become like the people you're around. And it's very true, right? I'm not saying that it's not true. It's very much a fact that you adopt the habits, the thinking of your environment. You become like your environment, which is why a lot of successful people advise you to search for mentors, search for people who have already done what you're trying to do. So I did just that, right? I decided to look for rich, successful people who are already successful. And my first step in finding these people, because I was in Miami, was like, okay, so I'll just go and join networking groups. And I decided to look for different groups that had a paywall, that were paid, because there is one thing that I did understand living in Miami. You learn this pretty quickly. You have to pay to play, right? And the fact that you have to pay to belong to a certain group or just to get into that group, it means that everyone who's in that group had the money to pay, and at least they have the mindset to be able to or willing to invest in themselves. It's like the club. If you pull up to the club and there's a cover fee, well, you better pay the doorman if you want to get in and access all the hot chicks inside. That's the analogy. So, joined a bunch of groups and I started attending as many events as I could, right? And lo and behold, I managed to meet a lot of successful people. Entrepreneurs, businessmen, or even just traditional 9-to-5 workers who built their income to a very respectable number. And it just started to open my mind to different possibilities and allowed me to see different realities of what was possible. Now, the thing that happened with all this, and it's something that I faced I would say I still occasionally face, but I faced particularly during the first few years after I joined all these groups, was I started to feel pressure, or an internal pressure, and it's expected, right? Because you naturally become self-conscious if you join a group where everyone has certain goals or certain attributes. You don't want to be the only one lacking, because it's ingrained in our psychology that we want acceptance, right? And we don't want to be the odd man out in any group. But this whole pressure started to build up, and I started to actually feel resentment towards my own personal development, just questioning my journey, like my story, hating or questioning the fact, why did I start so late to take my life seriously? Why did I realize so late that I actually have to take making money very seriously, that I have to put effort and intention into my skill set, into my social skills, into my network, into my career, etc. And for a long time, I just felt resentment, because I was like, fuck, no one told me this shit. I'm just figuring this all out now. And I just felt super behind. I hated the fact that I considered myself to be like old when I discovered all this. I was like 26, 27. I was like, what have I been doing my whole life? I've just been wasting my entire life. Especially now when it's so in your face and you go to fucking social media and everyone is rich and balling. And naturally, yeah, it just turned into a very negative emotion towards my story. And it's interesting, because naturally when you're young, or the younger you are, the more likely you are to not know yourself. And when you don't fully know yourself, you think you know what you want, but you don't really know what you want. And instead you opt for copying what other people want. For example, you see a guy, he's rich, he has a Lambo. I want a Lambo. And don't get me wrong, I do want one. But most people just want it by default. They don't really sit and think if they actually want it, or if the lifestyle that they're trying to copy is the lifestyle that they want. So fast forward, I was already dealing with all these issues, and I had made some connections with some guys, and there was a dinner that was going to be hosted. A dinner that was meant specifically for business owners who were making at least $1 million in revenue. I didn't qualify for the meeting, for the dinner, but my friend did. And it so happened that my friend was the one hosting the dinner, so he was kind enough to invite me for the event. And I went. I was super excited, right? Because this whole time I've been like, shit, more opportunities. I'm networking with rich people. I'm gonna get to know them or learn what I can do to become one of them, yada, yada. And it wasn't, so that night was a very interesting one, because that night, it was a small group, which meant that I got a chance to talk to everyone, got a chance to talk to a lot of people. And by the end of the night, one of the weirdest things happened to me. And that was that I came to the realization that no matter how impressive or how successful these people were, I wouldn't trade places with any of them. I still, to this day, can't even put into words that feeling, but it was more so just like fucking realizing that I would not trade my life or who I am right now or what I've been through, what I've gone through, my experiences, to have the money that they have or the business success that they have. I just realized that, and it was the moment where I actually felt most at peace, or where I most understood the relationship I had with that internal pressure, because I just came to really understand and value my own journey. And I realized that basically I can't replace my story with someone else's. I can't live the life that someone else is living or is living or has lived, whatever. I have to live my own. And that was just like a moment where I want to say I finally felt relieved, but essentially that was like the realization that hit me, where I was like, wait, if this is like the feeling that I have where I wouldn't trade places with any of them, then why am I rushing to live a life or to live like someone who I wouldn't even trade places with? And since then, of course, I've gotten a whole lot better at managing that feeling, because there are still times, especially as I keep getting older, where I just have those moments where I'm like, shit, I'm running out of time. And then I start to, let's say, resent or overthink about certain decisions that I made in the past that maybe delayed my progress for X amount of time. But I've gotten a whole lot better at managing that, just keeping that in perspective, just taking that into account, where essentially it's my story. Like, this is my life. I'm never going to be anyone else. And I've mentioned this in the past, especially when it comes to all these mentors. And when I say mentors, I mean popular public figures, right? Because there's entrepreneurs, there's influencers, there's different kinds of people out there right now on social media, and everyone's like fucking killing it. A lot of people are. But it's very easy to just come to hate yourself, or not hate yourself, but essentially basically that, hate yourself to the point where it's like, I'm never gonna be these guys, or trying to emulate them, when that is the wrong approach. You have to first accept yourself. And going back to my earlier point, the more you know yourself, the more likely it is that you'll understand what type of life that you want. Because maybe you're trying to copy all these guys, but in reality, if you had their life, you wouldn't even enjoy it. So it's a interesting thing, right? But it's fun, because there's one thing about life, and it's that it's what makes life magical, right? Just this endless, or this journey of self-discovery, until you get to the end and you hopefully find out how much of your potential, or how much were you actually able to do and accomplish. So yeah, wanted to share that quick story with you all. Pacing around, thinking. Sundays are for reflecting, Mondays are for executing. So keep that in mind. I hope you all had a wonderful week. Wishing you an excellent next week. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.